going. Rob, would you care to introduce our guest speaker? And spoiler alert, we have a haiku at the end of it.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, I'm not going to read the haiku, am I?
You can, or I can.
All right. Yeah, okay, I can read that.
Okay.
All right. So I just don't like to read things I've not looked at first. I didn't know what you were going to have me read, Steph. Okay.
It's
Um,
extemporaneous. That's why we called it
uh,
extemporaneous haiku, question mark.
okay. Okay, so the introduction. Losing faith for a person born into the LDS Church, also known as, they don't like to be told that they're Mormons anymore, even though they used to be Mormons, but the Mormon Church has been compared to a death by 1,000 cuts. Stephanie's family has roots in the early years of the church, and she's one of the few members of her family who has officially removed her name from the church records. Her journey from a true blue Mormon to full atheist spans 35 years of small cuts and cracks to her former faith. She's relied on her sense of humor and optimism to make it through. Okay, so here's the haiku by Stephanie. Extemporaneous haiku is arms spread to the sky, mind and body connected. My bare shoulders thrive. Welcome, Steph. Very good.
And by the way, y'all, Steph wrote that haiku while we were doing the introduction. That it really was extemporaneous haiku. So I got to give you props for that.
I told you I am just that good at it. I learned how to do them in eighth grade. Actually, I think the year that kicked off this whole talk. So yeah, it's kind of fitting that I make a brand new one up for it.
I love that, and it is very on theme for
Applicable,
this
very
evening.
applicable.
Yes. Yes, I have so been looking forward to this talk because I know we all have our own horror stories about dress codes and things, but I am ready to hear about Mormon dress codes in particular.
Oh, they're crazy. Yeah, and I've really been looking forward to it. This has been a long time in the making, and it could easily everything I found it could easily go like three parts, but I promise I'm going to do my best to get a more concise one, just so we do it just for today.
Fair enough. All right. Well, we will leave you to it. Feel free to share your screen and take it away. And don't forget, everyone, if you have questions, drop them in the chat, and we'll be collecting them as we go along.
Yeah. Just a quick heads up. If it sounds like I'm reading a script for this one, that's because I am. I've come a long way after dealing with chemo, but my speech and my memory are still putting themselves back together. So that's why I've got everything written down so that I can just keep with the flow and not go off on too many tangents for this one. So
You
let's
are
see.
all good. You have a lot of good excuses, whereas I just read things because, like, if I don't write things down, I forget them for no good reason.
Yeah, we all have those things, but yeah, it's been fascinating. But that was one of the fun parts of putting this together is getting those skills back. This has been a very helpful tool. Um, I think is a good word for it. So yeah, I am really excited to do this. So I of course have pictures. And there, oh, I got to do some digging for these pictures. So this one is actually OG, true blue, hardcore Mormon Stephanie when I was at my peak. This was actually seventh grade, if I remember right.
Man, you were
Now,
way cooler in the seventh grade than I
I'm
was.
telling you, the bucket hats came back. The overalls came back. Like everything has come back, and it's so exciting to me. So, but yeah, this is a there's a story that I tell about when I was in eighth grade and stood up to adults with authority. My husband rolls his eyes the moment he recognizes it coming. Fun fact, this happened 3 years to the day before Avril Lavigne and her Skater Girl flavor showed up on the pop stations. Uh, so in case anyone thought that that's when things really kicked off, no, I was the trendsetter. This was all me. So you're welcome. So I was 5'9" and all legs when I was 14 years old. I'd been teased and sometimes bullied for wearing high water pants. I had wide shoulders and a large chest. I wouldn't see easily accessible waist-long tops and tall women's jeans for years. I discovered men's cargo pants fit my body and personality, and I feel giddy today when I see girls and women wearing them. While my back then gender-bent jeans were frowned upon, my modest feminine shirts were fine with others as long as I didn't move. When I was in 8th grade, my homeroom and science teacher, Mr. L, asked to volunteer to write the date on the board every morning. Whoever did would receive an automatic H, or honorable, for their citizenship grade. I took the job. I didn't need to stand on anything because I was so tall. I rarely missed a day. When we got our midterm report cards, I saw he'd given me an N, or needs improvement. When I asked him why, he told me every time I raised my arm to write the date on the board, my shirt lifted and showed my skin. I was violating the dress code. He refused to change the grade, even though I'd met the only requirement for the automatic H, so I stopped writing the date. He broke his end of the deal, so I had no reason to hold up mine. Body shapes like mine were not considered when the rules were written. If you raised your arms and any skin showed below your shirt, it was considered too short. My large chest lifted the front of the shirt just by wearing it. My wide shoulders went further into the sleeves, making the sleeves pull up more fabric along the sides of the shirt. My longer legs would have caused trouble too, but I didn't wear clothes that showed my knees often enough to see if my fingertips went below the hem. For the next few weeks, I battled with Mr. L and Mrs. H. She was the teacher in charge of the dress code. I refused to go home and change. I was threatened with detention, in-school suspension, which is like an all-day detention, and finally a 3-day suspension where I could not attend school. That was when the vice principal got involved. He said he had an extra shirt I could wear. I remember feeling hopeful and relieved that one of the adults understood me. That changed when he had me put on one of the school t-shirts from a box of spares that other students never bought. It went lower than my hips and made me feel like I was wearing a sack. It was the smallest size in the box, but it was meant for someone at least 2 sizes larger than me. I took it off and refused to wear it. I, at that point, knew I would get in trouble for my next move, but I didn't care if it meant I'd get a 5-day suspension. I told them I don't have enough clothes to follow their dress code every day. My mom can't afford to buy me new clothes every time they shrink and no longer meet the rules. If they want me to follow their code, then they can buy me the clothes that do. So they did. The vice principal authorized a trip to the store. We picked out shirts and even a couple of shorts since it was getting warmer. I tried each one on and we made sure that they met the rules before we left the fitting room. Then we went back to school. Now, these shirts are some of the few that won't get me in trouble. So they get washed more and they shrink faster. Within a few weeks, all of them no longer pass. And I couldn't help but celebrate what I felt was a win. For the rest of the school year, every time I saw one of these adults in the hallway, I said, "Hi!" while waving at them with both arms raised high up in the air.
Oh my goodness. I love that so much. I didn't know that part of the story, and that gives me such joy.
It's
Did you have your
beautiful.
middle fingers up while you were waving your hands in the air?
Yeah, because I was still a good Mormon girl. I still don't, I still, by the way, don't flip anybody off. I still don't swear, but that's my own choices. But yeah, it was enough. Like, it basically was like a giant middle finger to them, just doing that little action. Oh, it's glorious. So I know I'm so excited that Rob is here because that's the story as I've been telling it for 25 years. And Rob has mentioned so many times that we can't trust our memories to be accurate, which is why I brought out my secret weapons. One of the benefits of being raised Mormon was compulsory journaling. Shout out to younger me for her written accounts showing how it went down, and to my inner pack rat for keeping all of my physical journals since I was like 5.
Can you tell us how this was compulsory? What does that mean?
So it's part of the a lot of us are told, of course, study your scriptures, pray every day, pray for meals, pray in the morning, pray at night, go to church frequently. Mormons also include with your scripture study, with like documenting your life, um, add journaling to it. And it's not just like a dear diary. It's for uh like your part in history as a Mormon to pass on to your descendants.
Wow,
Uh
I've never heard this aspect before mentioned.
yeah.
What's your guess at the percent of Mormons who actually follow through with this?
Oh geez, there are
Like, did you talk about it with your friends? Were they doing it too?
they I know that we did it. We definitely, like when I was in the youth groups, we definitely had activities where we were adding journal entries. Um, but they were also still private. They weren't something that we were like always comparing notes. Um, but they were the very like introspective uh insights that we had throughout our lives, things that we found when we were reading scriptures that just stuck out to us, uh, times that we
I'm getting
shared
a
our
bad feeling
testimony,
about
things
this.
like that.
Maybe I'm just totally wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Connecting it to Scientology, where they make you get audited and they take notes on every secret thing you tell them and they keep it forever. Do they have access? Does the church have access to this?
Oh, your journals? No, these are like yours to keep.
Okay.
But that is talking to the bishop if you get in trouble or if you're being interviewed for something, but that's a whole other thing. Uh, and they do keep records, but they don't always use those records the way that they should. But like, maybe that'll be like my fifth talk. Well,
Ooh, record keeping. I like
ooh.
it. Very exciting sounding topic, but it is actually fascinating. Like
Yeah. So that
personal
was
records versus what they're using. Okay, carry on.
right. And that was why this was so fun to me because I just out of curiosity went and pulled out what I was writing about those days.
So, for the
And it
benefit
turns
of
out
the
I did.
people who are going to only listen to this on the audio podcast, do you want to read the thing?
Yeah, so this has, I took photos of my journals. These are all handwritten in pen. Um, Anything like names, it just has a first initial kind of blotted out. But these, the one on these screens, these are pieces where I was telling what happened uh, as like kind of the title of this was called Story of My Life up to this point, because it was also a thing that I did for fun every now and then. And this was like the second thing that I talked about was this story. And it was kind of fascinating. But while I was reading these entries, um, and while I read through them, it made me wonder if Mr. L set me up. The dress code violations began during the first half of the school year, and he was my first period teacher throughout 8th grade. He knew he'd see me lift my arm every morning if I volunteered for the second half. He added the dress code condition without telling me and knew I would fail. I was so dedicated to our deal that I would decorate the day with different colors, doodles, and themes every day for 2 months. unaware that I was giving him more opportunities to point to. And intentional or not, my reaction was the same. One of these entries, I wrote, quote, I didn't write the date for the rest of the year, end quote. Instead, I sat at my desk until the bell rang. Eventually, Mr. L chose someone else to write the date. Another point I wrote, one day, a girl came into his room with a shirt much worse than mine. I asked him why she didn't get in trouble, and all he could say was, oh, she's not in my class. I spoke up more when the dress code wasn't applied to other students. I felt confident enough to do that.
I have questions about Mr. L's intentions.
So
Just
do I.
seems a little suspicious.
Yeah, I've always kind of wondered about that ever since. Uh, there are 3 more entries on this slide, specifically with 3 days around this event. And it's kind of going to go backwards so that you can see where like kind of like the big bang of this whole event. I was able to pinpoint it. So March 15th, 2000. Yeah, I was Y2K. It was great. Uh, quote, we've been in the computer lab for the past 2 days. My assignment was to write a persuasive paper on an issue. I chose the dress code. End quote. I made it public. The entry says I posted my persuasive paper online on a chat board. And this was early AOL days. And I wish I could find the post, but I have no clue how to be able to do that. So if anybody has any ideas and can track that down with me, I remember my screen name. I don't know why I still remember that and not a lot of other things. Uh, the next post is from March 9th. Most people think of me as someone who doesn't cause any trouble at all. My rebellious side is starting to show. I haven't been writing the date on the board for Mr. L, and I didn't do the vocabulary assignment. I was willing to start taking my grades because I was protesting so deeply. Best of all, I wrote what triggered the rebellion. March 7th, 2000. Quote, the dress code here is way too stiff. I was supposed to have gotten to go on a field trip. I know of only 3 teachers in this whole school that actually enforce the dress code. Mr. Ellis made me change my shirt at least 5 times since the school year started. I feel like I'm getting picked on. Each time this happened, I noticed many other girls with shirts just like mine. End quote. 5 times. It might not seem like a lot when you think 5 times in 6 months. However, those were 5 times when I was pulled out of class, when my clothing mattered more than my education, when was told my skin was inappropriate, but in other students was totally allowable.
Steph,
I
And
must have,
how
huh,
did like were there comments by the others after the class was over and like you could just talk freely with it? Did they make comments to you or did you talk to them about it?
um, so they, I also was kind of reading around these dates, and I did have some entries specifically about some of my classmates. There were a few obnoxious boys. I put one where he was crashing some of the desks together, and his nickname was Burrito. I don't know. I didn't really talk too much to the other classmates in my homeroom. So this was also back when I was still relatively shy. I was building a larger group of friends, but current me was not yet developed. Um, but they never said, "Oh yeah, you look hot." Like they never said anything,
yes,
which
and
was the weird
yet,
part.
yeah, the whole alleged premise behind a lot of these dress code rules that are usually mainly only enforced for girls is that, well, it's going to distract the boys. And yet, we don't have a behavior code that penalizes boys for, I don't know, being distracted by girls' outfits, which, I'm just really not sure how much of a threat to everyone's education that is in the first place.
Yeah.
Just an observation.
Yeah. So with this, I totally had forgotten like what triggered this whole thing. So I was really upset because of this field trip. Uh, if you had a poor citizenship grade, you wouldn't be able to go to these. I didn't write where it was supposed to be, but it was clearly a place that I'd been excited about. Maybe it was the zoo or the planetarium, but either way, it was a lost moment that just ticked me off. So a lot of people have said that uh, after I've told my story, uh, school uniforms could have been a great fix for this. However, uniforms do not address the reason why dress codes are controversial in the first place. Even if every student wears the same shirt, skirt, pants, jacket, accessories, the students are not shaped the same. So, will the school cover the cost of tailoring clothing for a girl with a large chest, or wide shoulders, or a longer torso? Will they ensure the fabric won't shrink, or pay for a new set if the old one no longer fits the dress code? Will they force gender nonconforming students to wear pants or a dress? This current slide, it has a total of 11 different reasons on why people would push to have uniforms in schools. I think I saw briefly a statistic that said about 20% of public schools do have uniforms and about half of private schools do. Allow me a moment to tell another story that I have on repeat. Only this time, I'm going to tell it as it truly happened. I wore dresses only for choir concerts, church, going to the temple, costumes, and formal dances. I felt like myself mostly in pants. When I was 17, my friend dared me to wear a skirt or dress and makeup for a full week. Pajama pants were allowed if I was sleeping. I'd earn a new CD or two CDs in a movie if I made it 4 weeks. I made it through the end of Tuesday. I walked home across the street from school during lunch and changed into pants. My friend got me a random sticker as a consolation prize. I didn't realize how differently I've been telling this story. I wrote an article about it for the local newspaper's teen section, and that's what's on this slide right now. I laugh about it, but I've forgotten about the wolf whistles and innuendos from classmates. I forgot how attractive my body was at the time. I forgot about the regret, the mental and emotional pain. If my school required girls to wear dresses, I couldn't imagine the suffering I'd go through for 9 months every school year. Also, one thing to remember, when somebody accuses you of disrespecting yourself or those around you by not following a dress code or any other arbitrary rule, restraint is not respect. It's changing yourself because you're avoiding a confrontation. You can quote me on that. I said it a while ago at one of the RfR hangouts. Okay, so this RfRx actually started out as a joke about recording my stories rather than repeating them for the 100th time, so that the next time we're talking about purity culture or gender norms or rebelling against authority, I can just have this video and point somebody to it and they could just watch it that way. I thought this would have a larger scope, and the first draft did. But while I was hunting for articles to make this less about my experience, I realized I had to narrow it down locally. Where I live, there's more to it than policing female bodies. Also, just a heads up, I fully understand that purity culture isn't just focusing on females or females assigned at birth or anything in that realm. It's horrible what happens to the guys too. But like I said, I have to narrow the scope on this. So I have you guys in mind. But if I also include you, we would be here for another 2 hours on top of what I'm managing to do here. So please forgive me.
Opportunity for a future discussion. We can
Exactly.
talk about that whole other side of the coin. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the one doing that because like while I'm one of the guys most of the time, I am not one of those guys. I don't want to tell their story. So if somebody does have a story, let us know.
We do have somebody who used to run one of the departments. He's still a volunteer, and he went to BYU. Is that the one? And
Yeah?
yeah, maybe he can do it. Hmm.
Okay. That would be perfect. So because there is an extra ingredient in Mormon modesty. You're expected to dress so that your garments, the special underwear that's on the screen right now, that we're infamous for, you have to dress so that no pieces of those show. That means no sleeveless tops or necklines that might show cleavage. There's no gap between the top and bottom pieces, so if any part of your waist or lower back is exposed when you bend over or lift your arms, your sacred underwear show. By the way, I am going to always refer to us, them, the whole church as Mormon. I was a teenager when Hinckley was the prophet president, so that's all of the instruction I was given. Joseph Smith himself referred to us as Mormons. It's not a slur. Get over it.
I'm not changing the way I refer to it unless they change their holy book's name. It
Exactly.
still is the Book of Mormon. I'm sorry. It's not the
Yeah.
book of.
Yeah. That's my heritage, my family, my OG 1843 roots called themselves Mormons. I am not letting that get taken away from me. I'll
So
give up a lot of it about that.
the photo on the screen is only like up to the crotch. What's below that? How far down do these garments go?
I think it's like maybe 4 or 5 inches above the knee, maybe,
Oh wow,
if that.
that's pretty far down. I guess depending on how long your legs are, it could
Yeah,
vary, but that
which I
probably
would
goes
not
to
be
your
able to
point.
wear them.
Yeah.
I know it.
And
They're
and
not
so
like
if you
they're
were going, so this is basically covering the area, especially on the woman, that a woman would have worn in a bathing suit in the early 1900s. So
yep.
how do current Mormons go swimming? What do they wear?
Um well that's one of the exceptions. You don't have to wear them when you're swimming,
Whoa.
but you are expected to, like when you dry off, get dressed, put new ones right back on.
But your
There's a
your
whole
bathing
lot of
suit could
rules.
be showing more skin than these garments would.
It depends. And I'll get into that here. It's that's that's one of the things that I had to do some digging on. Uh, Also, I didn't mention it earlier, but if you violated the dress code, or you did violate the dress code, if any part of your underwear showed, including a bra strap that fell off your shoulder, which mine do all the time. It doesn't matter what bra I've got, my shoulders just slide off. It's
Oh,
annoying.
God, that is one of my pet peeves when people
Yeah.
act like some kind of, lewd
Ooh,
revelation has happened when a bra strap falls out. Like, have you ever experienced, like, this is how bras are. I
that's
don't
just
know
what
what
they
to
do.
tell you.
They're not glued on, guys. Like, come on.
Right? Wow.
So normally a person doesn't start wearing garments until they're an adult, but it's implied that teenagers should still follow such standards to, quote, prepare for them. When you become a teenager, you're given a pamphlet called For the Strength of Youth, or FSY. I got the 1990 version, which is on the left side of the screen, and you can see like all of the 1990s hair with like about what are there like a dozen teenagers. It's glorious. Uh, and then later, a few years later, I got the 2001 version. These pamphlets are a list of, they call them standards for every aspect of your daily life. Some church members will say they're recommendations or guidelines, but to quote the pamphlet, they are rules given to help you measure your conduct. God's commandments, standards, are constant, unwavering, and dependable. As you adhere to them, you will receive countless blessings from heaven, including the gift of eternal life. Another version of the FSY pamphlet came out in 2011. And my guess is that's why there was an increase in articles that I'll show you in a moment. There would have likely been more news articles after the 2001 version came out, but social media wouldn't really take off for another 5 years. So here's God's standard on how a young person should dress, according to the pamphlets that I was given. Servants of God have always counseled his children to dress modestly to show respect for him and for themselves. Because the way you dress sends messages about yourself to others and often influences the way you and others act, you should dress in such a way as to bring out the best in yourself and those around you. However, if you wear an immodest bathing suit because it's the style, it sends a message that you are using your body to get attention and approval, and that modesty is not important. So this right here lists explicitly what they declare immodest. It includes short shorts, tight pants, and other revealing attire. Young women should refrain from wearing off-the-shoulder, low-cut, or revealing clothes. Young men should similarly maintain modesty in their dress. All should avoid tight-fitting or revealing clothes and extremes in clothing and appearance. As far as bathing suits go, I wore like one of those one-piece suits that had pretty thick straps to go over my shoulders. There were a bunch of people that would wear t-shirts over their swimsuits. Uh, the guys had it easy because they had access to like swim trunks that were pretty long back then. But if you were a girl, you got looked at really weird if you were wearing guys' swim trunks. So girls just couldn't win either way back then. Now, I took this text seriously. It was given with the promise that from the prophet that it was true. And I was so self-conscious of my fully developed body that I bought 3 turtleneck tops for 6th grade. And there's a picture of me in one of those tops. The sleeves go halfway down before my elbow. The turtleneck, it's a little hard to see because the yellow screen is so close to my skin color because I'm that pale, but it covers halfway up my neck. And I wanted to send the right message and ensure I wasn't influencing someone else in the wrong way. So that's why I wore this. However, the dress code battle is a clear turning point. By 10th grade, I favored tank tops and necklines that revealed my favorite mole in the middle of my collarbones. The cargo pants became more colorful and extreme. If it looks like I'm unhappy, by the way, in these photos that I'm posting of myself, I just hated my smile. Uh, the first one that pulled up, that was me in 9th grade, 8th grade, one of those, but it's full-on vest that you had back in 2000. I was super cool. Uh, the one on the far right, black tank top, yield to the princess sign, so many necklaces, but That one has my favorite purple, black, and gray and white camel pants that has a whole history, and I love them to pieces. I wish I still had them. There's another one, middle left, that's me and my sister. She's the really other end of the Y2K with like the super cute girls. Like that was the style that she felt more comfortable in. And I'm there again, black cutoff sleeves to make a tank top with black and gray camo cargo pants. The other one on the right in the middle, that's one of the, again, when it's a formal dance, I will wear a dress. I can dress up really well when I want to. That, but again, this is a full length dress. My shoulders are uncovered, and the neckline, I can see my mole. And that is junior prom.
Oh yeah, I was about to say that that would have been considered highly inappropriate in my family. That
Mhm.
I I went to prom in a dress that looked more like the yellow turtleneck you had on the previous
Yeah.
slide. It was not cute.
Yeah. So again, I hated my smile, and that's why a lot of these, it's not, I was okay. I promise. I was taking medication at that time to handle major depressive disorder. I was getting better. But what I hated more was the idea that my shoulders were influencing boys and men around me to have impure thoughts. That my naturally large chest was a distraction if I wore the wrong shirt. I personally didn't have frequent thoughts about sex and wasn't boy crazy like my sisters. I've learned in the last 6 months it's because my sexuality is closer to asexual. I didn't have the same raging hormones as my peers, so maybe it was easier for me. But if I could control myself when those thoughts did come up, why put the blame on me when I was still following the whole dress code through high school? Uh, this last picture of these five is one of my favorites to me. This is junior year, and this is kind of where the name Contraddiction came from. This is it's me, purple tie-dye tank top. I have a crystal with the yin yang. That's like I've got a handmade uh chain, leather chain that's turned it into a necklace. It's But yeah, that was the point where someone referred to me as a straight edge hippie, and that's part of where contradiction came from, was that little term. It was great. So a few weeks ago, Janice Selby was a guest on RfRx before her conference on sex positivity and purity culture. During her talk, she said purity culture controls the body of girls and women. It controls the thoughts of boys and men. And I stole this picture from Janice's website on the conference because this is exactly what I love about freeing yourself from the idea on what you're supposed to look like. Janice has this amazing dress. Her shoulders are exposed. Her neckline goes deeper than mine usually do. But she's beautiful. She has a giant smile. She's just enjoying life, and there's nothing wrong with her. I I agree with her. And I also believe that Mormon purity culture causes people to be more critical of other people's clothes and bodies outside of church and feel shame if they're not following God's standards themselves. I found a list of rules put together by faithful Mormons and ex-Mormons. 28 of them have something to do with clothing. They range as minor as rule number 57, no piercings, although women may have one piercing in each ear. There's rule 142, do not cross-dress. This I found out can get you excommunicated if they think you're transitioning in any way. There's Rule 407. Civil wedding ceremonies should be simple and conservative. And Rule 374, deceased persons who are temple worthy should be buried in their temple clothes, not their favorite suit or dress. Those
Now,
temple clothes are,
wow.
that's these things.
Wow.
You get the
No,
baker's
wait a
hat,
minute.
you get, oh yeah.
What?
Oh yeah, they're absolutely crazy. And if you can't see this, if you're just listening to this, please go look up the Mormon temple clothes with the green aprons, the baker's hat, the veil, and they are doing uh, they claim that they've removed this, but when you're doing one of the rituals in the church, you are promising to keep everything that happens there a secret. And if you should say anything about them, you are vowing to slit your own throat and your bowels. And they are taking their thumb across their throat in this picture.
So
Yeah.
I'm confused because this looks like at least the guy is cross-dressing. I thought you said there was no cross-dressing. Like, is
I
that not a,
know.
is he not wearing a skirt? What is going on there?
I don't
Good
know.
point, Rob.
I was never worthy to go to the temple as an adult, so I have no clue. Like this is still a part that I need to do on my deconstruction is digging into all of what happens in the temple. I know that a lot of it Joseph Smith came up with because he stole a bunch of things from uh
Hmm.
Masons.
Yep.
Um
Somebody's
so
mentioning in the chat that that sounds just like a
yep.
Masonic oath of
Hmm.
secrecy.
And
Yeah.
someone else said that actually is a robe. So it's a robe
Yeah,
over
well
regular clothes.
you have all of it.
Okay.
It's crazy. So this
By
is
the way,
one reason I have
how
a
many
problem with
rules are
these.
there? I forgot the highest number you gave. How many rules
Oh
are there?
geez.
The Mormons have more rules than the Ferengi have rules of acquisition. That's
It
actually
was in like the
astounding.
478. I've got it
Yeah.
listed with a bunch of the links that I found, so I'm including all of the links like that everybody can just go and do a deep dive for sure. So that will be there. But this is one thing that ticks me off. So God's standards decide if you are worthy of going to the temple where all the rituals related to your connection with loved ones are performed. They determine if you are reverently playing basketball in the church cultural hall. Like this is a picture that someone took. Uh, the church buildings typically have a spot where there's a stage, where there's like a spot where you can put a bunch of tables for like all sorts of things, and they also have basketball courts. Uh, that's a
So
whole.
so the sign says, for those audio only, brothers and sisters, as a symbol of reverence, please wear t-shirts, no tank tops, and modest length shorts at all times while using the cultural hall facilities for recreational purposes.
Yeah,
Y'all
that's
ever notice how like modest length is never really clearly defined?
yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, I have something in a moment that's gonna actually cover that. It's great. Um, but to me, it's even more messed up that they determine if you're worthy of attending BYU and of any credits you've earned there. This is part of the uh, honor code that is a huge piece. You agree to all of the rules in the honor code when you are applying to go to the school. While you're there, you have to follow these rules in your daily life, not just while you're at the school. And if you violate any enough of these, you get kicked out. You do not get to transfer your credits. If you are about to graduate and they say, nope, you do not get that degree. You do not get your money back. And you've
Yeah,
lost how much time of your life like at that
so,
school? That's one
so,
reason I am so glad I did not go there.
so as I mentioned, we have a volunteer who was at BYU. I think it was sophomore year, and I remember listening to this call. He called into the Atheist Experience,
Mhm.
said he was at BYU and he was hanging on to Mormonism by a little thin wire, and Matt actually gave him something which he said on air, okay, that's the last straw. You're right. I don't believe it anymore. but he became a volunteer for us. And actually, in our second deconstruction story hour, he told the story of how that happened and he left. But he was when he was originally deconverting, he was not a senior. I don't remember if it was sophomore or junior at BYU, and he had to keep secret that he was volunteering for recovering from
Yes.
religion.
It's
They would have
so,
certainly stripped him of all of his credits, as you said, and that would have been it.
and it's what, they're basketball or they're football players that are like real popular lately. I can't remember. It's one of their sports teams.
Go sports
Um,
ball.
yeah, it's, and I hear a lot of people be like, "Oh, BYU's got the best team lately," and they just go off, and I'm like, "Yeah, but I wonder how many of those players are secretly gay or no longer believe, because if you find out, they're gone."
Yeah. And they can't, like you said, once you're invested to a certain point, it doesn't make sense to leave if all of your credits aren't going to transfer. You're going to have to move. You
Yeah.
just want to get out and get your diploma and go on with your life.
Yep.
And for some
And I don't want to
people,
be cynical here, but I'm going to be. You know, the coach of the team, if it's a star player and he realizes he's really not believing in it, he's like,
yeah.
no, 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 shut up. Don't
Yeah, yeah,
say
yeah.
Yeah.
anything till
Oh,
the season's
yeah.
You,
over. Yeah.
if you are on one of these teams, you can get away with a lot more.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's so, again, it goes back to the idea of I'm getting in trouble, they're doing the same thing. Why aren't they getting the same punishment? So,
I think Mr.
no,
L had a crush on you, which is
oh, that's gross.
disgusting. Yeah.
Ugh,
Vomit.
ugh.
Ugh.
My husband and his brothers went to school and had that same teacher. He was still there
Ugh.
years later.
I don't like it. I don't want to speak ill of anybody that I don't know their circumstances, but that just sounds real sus to me. That guy did not need to be paying that close of attention to what was happening when people were writing the date on the board.
Yeah.
Also, here's an idea. Let's just say that Mr. L's real concern was to do with the fact that when the students were writing the date on the board, it was accidentally showing their midriff area. Something that I don't know, a kind person who was actually concerned for the well-being of their students might have done is say, hey, let's write the date at this spot on the board that's a little bit lower, and then the problem is solved and no one is embarrassed.
That's
Wouldn't
a
that
Yeah.
good point, Cara. I mean, did he
Huh.
purposely put it at the very top of the board so you had to stretch?
Again, like I
mm-hmm.
said, I think he was setting me up. And I never thought
Yeah.
about that until I was reading those journals, which is, I'm so glad I do that. But
Yep.
here's another messed up part with these standards, with these rules. They start deciding if you're worthy when you aren't legally old enough to drive. I'm going to start digging into some of the examples that I found. So these are all real. These are all from newspapers. Some of these are from places like Vogue, uh, various different sources, but they're all actual stories um, from teenagers and parents that spoke up when something was going on. So, again, like I said, I had to narrow the scope of this talk. There was something that caused a national spike around 2014 that there were so many of these stories just repeatedly coming out over the next few years.
Oh, I
Uh,
remember this.
yeah, so my partial guess is social media made it easier to speak out, of course. But there must have been something else that was pushing back and people were trying to make things more conservative and there was a lot of that going on. But when I was seeing this, again, this is about 14 years after I first dealt with what I was dealing with. When I was seeing these, I was cheering on these people. I was so proud that people had spoke up because it is scary.
Yeah. And
Um,
for people who are listening, this is the two headlines that we're looking at here are Utah
yeah,
school.
yeah, these I'm gonna go into for
Oh,
sure.
okay.
Like
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I got kind of the summary, but I am gonna go into some short details, short summary, short details. Um, but yeah, so the what I did notice is that while we were finding our voice, the voice of authority in my area, they were using scripts older than I had been aware of. Uh, and I'll show you what I mean in a moment. But one of the articles that caught my attention, uh, it was listed in the social news outlet called Bustle. Not everybody's familiar with it, but it's kind of like Teen Vogue, that kind of thing. Um, this was about a Utah, it was a list of articles, or it was a list of times where dress code violations had been going on and people were speaking out. But one of them was about a Utah yearbook where photos of the girls had been inconsistently edited to add sleeves or raise necklines. Things that were allowed in the dress code were hidden because photo editors felt that what they were seeing was below other standards that they had. For example, there was one girl who had a tattoo that said something like, I am enough. And it was approved by the school. It was not a big deal, but it was edited out.
Is it because you're not enough without Jesus?
I don't know, but one of the things that does get mentioned in those For the Strength of Youth pamphlets is no tattoos. Well, the new one has changed. But again, there needs to be like a part two because there's a brand new pamphlet that came out about 2022 and there's new stuff going on with garments. I'm not including all of those because again, I'm trying to fit what I can.
Yeah, these were the experiences that you had when
Yeah.
you were going through it. So that makes sense.
So, and then the second one is another Utah school where there were students who went to their homecoming dance, but they were turned away because they said that they were told their dresses violated the dress code for the dance. They protested afterwards because some girls were allowed to wear a certain style of dress and they got into the dance. No problem. But other girls that showed up in the exact same style were told that it violated it. Um, the school dress code stated because of differentiating body types, the same dress may be acceptable on one person, but not on another.
So
By the
they're
way,
just yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, yeah. So by the way, on this one, the teacher that's in charge of the student government, their version of my Mrs. H, um, he wrote a letter addressed to all of the students. Some of the protesters were part of student government, and he wrote how disappointed he was in them because when they were elected to their student government positions, they agreed to follow all dress codes. And he also called the protest mob behavior. His whole letter is gross and it'll be in my links, but
Well, and
it was disgusting.
they're basically straight up admitting in this statement that the issue isn't the article of clothing that you chose to wear. The issue is, does your body excite me when I look at it? Because
Yes,
if the same garment is acceptable on one person and not acceptable on another person because their body shape is different, we hear what you're saying loud and clear. You couldn't have gotten the assignment right no matter what you put on, because apparently it's that your body shape is too exciting for the person who is creepily standing outside of the high school dance judging the girls going into it. Ew.
yes. Yeah, and so like uh this one was really fascinating because when when I've said that they were using uh information much older than I knew of, uh that I'm going to bring up. But first, while I was doing some digging, because I got some extra time to kind of play a little bit more and find some more information to see if I could add it, I found this letter to the editor from two parents who wrote about dress codes at the same school that I ended up attending in 2004. Their letter was written in 1971, and that's what's on the screen right now. The school board was considering a change allowing girls to wear pants. the parents wrote about a trip their kids took with the choir up to Boise, Idaho for an event. I don't know, maybe it was a competition or something. They said that the students were sickened at seeing what happens when there isn't a dress code. How the girls look like they just got back from slopping the hogs, and the boys couldn't afford to get a haircut in the last year. They wrote about how much their children appreciated having a dress code when they got back home. How letting girls wear pants would lead to boys wearing long hair, and girls wanting to wear shorts, then boys not wearing shoes, and on and on and on until there's no dress code at all.
And
At
next thing
least I
you
think
know,
that's how they said.
everyone's running around naked, and it was
Yes.
chaos and pandemonium.
So
Huh.
that that's kind of
Hey
the
Rob,
the
what's that
information that
logical
they were
fallacy
using.
called?
Slippery slope?
Yes.
Yes, I know that one. Okay.
Aha.
So again, that's the language that was going on. That was 1971. I can't do math right now, but a while back. Um, the Mormon Church first printed the FSY pamphlets in 1965. It also states God's standards do not change, but let's see what God wanted 60 years ago. By the way, the cover for the 1965 one is so 1965. It's so cringy.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, so in it, again, listen for some of the things that you've already heard teachers say. Modesty cannot be determined by inches or fit, since that which looks modest on one person may not be so on another. Few girls or women ever look well in backless or strapless dresses. Such styles often make the figure look ungainly and large, or they show the bony structures of the body.
Oh wow, make everyone feel ashamed of their body. Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
I have a theory, by the way. One of my close family members, I'm not going to say who, I think that this is one of the reasons they developed um, eating disorders.
Yeah, because of pamphlets like this
So
saying no matter what you look like, it's bad.
you don't want to, yeah. So it continues. When at home, working in the yard, hiking, traveling to the mountains, camping, or participating in active sports, girls or women may appropriately wear slacks. Slacks! Slacks when you're camping. Anyway.
Is that and slacks is like dress pants, or should we be having like
Yeah.
pleat down the front?
I
Is there a belt requirement?
Oh,
Okay.
but then, however, they should not be too tight. Pedal pushers, knee knockers, Bermudas, capris, or any pants which reach just above the knees are acceptable. Of course, those who have been through the temple are expected to wear clothing of appropriate style, meaning ones that will cover their garments.
Okay, what are knee knockers? Does anyone know?
I don't know. I
I don't
recognize
know.
like three of them, and that
Yeah,
was
I
not one.
recognize the others. I don't know about the knee knockers. Okay, I'm Googling. Carry on.
And then the last piece on this, it says pants for young women are not desirable attire for shopping, at school, in the library, in cafeterias, or restaurants. I only read this pamphlet. I only read this relatively recently. So if I were looking at the standards that God had for my parents and grandparents, I wasn't following his commandments when I was 12 or 13 and trying to be that best Mormon girl.
Wait, you mean God didn't write the dress code pamphlet? What?
Or apparently, like he was stricter. I don't know. Maybe it was like the Old Testament God had them, and I got like early New Testament. I don't know.
Right, the curtain was torn in 1972 or whatever, and the dress code was repealed. We
But
now
if
follow the
I,
new covenant knee knocker code. Get it
the
right, y'all.
my thing with that though is if I had known about those standards, I would have felt worse about myself because would have felt I wasn't good enough. If I was trying to follow what my parents or their parents were expecting me to do. Um, so now, when I was looking for examples where policing a girl's clothing made the news, I was I was shocked at how many of them came from my own school district. Okay, quick housekeeping. Weber School District covers all of Weber County. Ogden City, where my story happened, is the largest city in Weber County. So it has its own school district. Weber School District offices are in Ogden. So to keep it simple, I'm referring to all of them as Weber schools. Otherwise, it's going to drive me crazy and probably some of you. So I do just want to highlight a few. There were so many more, but these ones I thought were very important to show how these standards are being applied. So this one was North Ogden Junior High in 2014. It has a picture of this girl. She is wearing this very long sweater. The hem of the sweater in the back goes way past her hips. It's full length. Uh, she has one of those, like, I think they called them eternity scarves back then, but it's one of those big wide scarves that's covering her chest. And her top even is, pretty modest. Like, it's loose. It hangs over the front of her torso, is not tight at all. Um, but the assistant principal told her that he could see through the knitting and could tell she was wearing a tank top under the sweater, something not allowed in the dress code. So when she reported this event or this experience, she said, I was wearing a scarf with a sweater, and he told me, nice try, because I had the scarf and my hair down, but that wasn't close enough. All of a sudden, I was very aware that he had been looking at my body to notice that. Her dad got involved and used social media to see if other young women had the same problem. He said he's spoken with hundreds of students and parents, and found that the issues are not isolated to North Ogden Junior High, but also at Weber High and Orion Junior High. This next one also blew me away. This is from South Ogden Junior High in 2018. It has there was a 13-year-old girl who was told to change into a t-shirt that had the South Ogden Junior High logo because of her sweatshirt, which had a picture of Marilyn Monroe and Tupac Shakur sitting next to each other. The next day, she and her mom went to the school and talked with the vice principal to figure out why she had to change her sweater. While the sweatshirt fully covered the girl's arms and torso, Marilyn's exposed shoulder was a violation. And it sounds like the vice principal was starting to lose his composure while the girl was talking, based on this quote from her mom. She said he just kind of got in her face, and I just kind of looked over at her, and she just looked like she was on the verge of tears. So she took her daughter home at that point and just let her have the day off from school. Later in the day, the principal called the mom to say the sweatshirt wasn't violating the dress code, and he'd be going over the dress code with staff. Still, the principal did not say if the girl could wear the sweatshirt again. So he confirmed it was not violating it, but another person felt it broke their standards and that it was not okay to wear.
And let's just all reflect for a minute on how we're calling the dress code, we're using this euphemism and saying the word standards to just like fully imbue this policy booklet with a value judgment that says if you don't follow this, it's because you're wrong and you're bad and something that you're doing is beneath me, which doesn't logically follow from this is our policy for what you can have on your body. Just throwing that out there, that's a strange word to use.
Yeah, it gets worse. This next one was probably the most disturbing. This was from Valley Elementary School in 2018. Uh, I'm just using the first letter of the names of the girls because there are two of them involved in this one. So saying the girl, the older girl, just to make it a little easier. Um, but this was 8-year-old Jay who wore a shirt that exposed the ball of her shoulders when she moved. Uh, and I have a picture of Jay in the shirt that she was wearing. And it's super cute. It's also one of those shirts that is attached to make it look like there's two shirts that she's wearing. Um, but the outer piece, it has some that are kind of going like off the shoulder a little bit, but the sleeves, they're probably like 4 inches long. Uh, the hem of the shirt goes all the way down to like where past her pockets and her front of her pants. Um, and it has an additional white hem to make it look like there's a shirt underneath. And then above the yellow part, above the main part of her shirt, there are additional straps that are going right over her shoulders. But because when she moves at recess, sometimes one side of the shirt falls a little bit. Jay was told to wear a jacket the rest of the school day or be sent to the principal's office with a call home to her parents. She felt embarrassed and confused, but she obeyed and told her parents what happened after school. Jay's dad learned her school was enforcing Weaver High's dress code provision that said sleeves must cover the ball of the shoulder. He was assured they'd begin using the school district's disruptive appearance rule instead. But it got better. Jay's oldest sister, B, was a senior at Weber High School 2 years before this happened in 2016, roughly. She said that she was working with her group in advanced chemistry when she was told to leave and find a jacket to wear over her knee-length, long-sleeve dress because the sleeves had slits in them. When she got back to class, she didn't know what she missed or what was going on in her group, and her classmates were just as confused about why it broke the rules. So this family had already gone through something like this. They were done trusting assurances. They contacted the American Humanist Association and the AHA's legal center wrote a letter to the Weaver School District making it clear that the school discriminated based on sex stereotypes and by using the FSY pamphlets as the obvious source for the high school provision about uncovered shoulders, making it also a violation of the separation of church and state. And their letter specifies a claim otherwise would be naive. It's so obvious what they're using. The stories that I find in the news sent the same message that I received. A student's appearance meant much more than their attendance, more than their education, more than how they moved in the world, and then more than their mental health during a pandemic. So check this out. So, of course, the pandemic afflicted every corner of our lives, and dress codes were no exception. Students across the US who went virtual in classes were sharing about schools enforcing the same strict dress code that they had for in-school dress codes. So not only were you not allowed to have, exposed shoulders, uh, you also weren't allowed to wear pajamas or hoodies or wear something like a blanket over your legs or just whatever you were wearing. You also were not allowed to sit on a bed for some of these schools,
Wait, what's wrong
which
with hoodies? Is it like if you have the hood up, they can't see your face, or like,
yeah, they were claiming that, oh, if you have your hood up, we can't see your face, we can't tell if you're cheating, we can't tell like what you're doing, if you've got your phone or like headphones in there, all these weird things.
okay,
But
whatever.
right, like it's a freaking pandemic. But yeah, so they could be if they were violating these codes, and they were virtual in their classes, they were kicked out, like kicked out of the Zoom class, and they would
Wow,
miss what was going on
way to
entirely.
enhance everyone's learning experience.
Yeah. So if they w did not change when they were told they were violating the dress code, they were literally kicked out of class. So if you were a student who was attending classes on site, uh, there were students sharing about the length of their shorts mattering, but masks were optional. Masks did not matter, which is really crazy. Um, there were also students sharing about being dress coded for wearing spaghetti strap tops, which are the really thin straps that, like, I've got one right now. It's really thin, but I love these things. I can wear them all the time. But they're getting dress coded in places like Florida when it's 80 degrees. They're reporting about two fire drills done 2 days in a row where students suspected that they were just being examined for violations of the dress code. There were some schools that allowed the virtual classes to be more casual, but were strict once students were back in the hallways. So there was so much mixed messaging going on. There was so little concern about, are they at least showing up? Are they surviving? Are we like keeping them as okay as we can in all of this craziness? Like, and the parents who wanted to fight back were just so exhausted themselves. There were so many that were writing articles about, I wanted to do more for my kid, but all I could do is just try and tell them you're okay, and that's all. Like, they couldn't go to the school and be like, hey, this is not okay, like they'd been able to do before the pandemic. So there's a picture. There were so many pictures. It was really hard to choose. But I chose a picture where there are a couple dozen different students in various versions of clothes and of coverage and everything. But they have so many posters that they're holding, such as "Culture belongs in cheese" is one of my favorites. "My body is not a distraction." Just there's one about something in the strip club. Let me see. Let me remember what that one was. Oh yeah, quote, "Hoochie mamas, ho-ish from the strip club." There was a girl and her friends probably that's what they were being called.
Wait,
There
people at the
was,
school are saying words like hoochie mama
yeah, which
at
tells
the
me
girls.
that's an older person, someone probably
Yes.
my generation. There was also one where during another protest, one of the students, she was recording the reactions from some of the teachers, some of the adults that were working at the school. And on camera, there's one of these guys that says, "Oh, you're wearing that? You are asking for attention. You got it." And she's like, "Are you kidding?" It's
Sir,
disgusting.
nobody wants your attention. Crawl back into
Yeah.
your hole.
For the record,
Ew.
Hoochie Mama is a song by Two Live Crew from 1997.
Yeah, that's why I was like, that's my generation. I know that song.
I don't think I ever remember hearing that phrase at all and was not in my.
Hoorah, hoorah, hoochie mama. I know that song because my sister, that was what they brought into my life. It was beautiful. So, yeah, I was so proud to find out that there were still, like, as exhausted as they still were putting in the effort to fight back in some way. So, when the pandemic was able to let everyone kind of go back to buildings, um, there's one shining light that just made me have so much hope in my area. It was not the Weaver School District, but West High in Salt Lake City was one of the last schools in Utah to transfer from virtual to on-campus classes. The school updated the 2022 dress code to focus on comfort and flexibility rather than the length of a hemline or visibility of a bra strap. It's okay if swimsuits and underwear are visible as long as they aren't the outer layer. Teachers have flexibility to decide if a student isn't safe because of their appearance. Otherwise, they essentially have to justify why a student is violating dress code with one of two reasons, or both. If there are images or language relating to illegal items or activities such as drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and vaping, or if there are images or language that is profane, like swear words, um, blatantly sexual, or pornographic. That's it. Everything else goes. They're good. You can wear pajamas, you can wear slippers, whatever. Just be at school. That's all they want. And my favorite part, it's still going. The student handbook from 2024 to 2025 shows that the changes are still there. So West High was experimenting when they had virtual classes the whole time. They were seeing if we allow students just to show up, just to be there, and not care if they're in bed or if they have a blanket over them, how are they doing grade wise? How are they doing attendance wise? And they took those lessons to heart and put them they put them in writing to show like we've got this is our priority. So you can have dress codes, but you also can have dress codes that don't do so much damage, that don't sexualize students. And then there's the disappointment, my area. So this has the Weber High School dress code as of 2025 on the first half. It's pretty general, but it's still as strict as far as like midriffs, barebacks, um, semi-transparent sheer clothing. I think my favorite there was armholes must be tight fitting. So if you have like a flowy sleeve, apparently that's not okay. I don't know. um,
Like I
and
could see
then
that backfiring on them. Like, are they then
yeah,
going to say your sleeves are too tight? We can see the contour of the ball of your
I
shoulder.
know. I'm like they're asking for even more than. And then below that you've got Weber State or Weber High School, not Weber State. That's a whole other. That's a university. But you've got Weber Highs right below that. And in that letter that the AHA legal team sent to their school district, one of their demands was that they change how they're doing these dress codes. And Weber State flat out refused. Or Weber High flat out refused. I apologize, Weber State. This is not one of your issues. Please forgive me if anybody's watching this. Thank you. Um, so yeah, this is still ongoing. This is not something that's stopped as of 2018, 2019, 2022. My area is still going off of these rules. In fact, some of them have just made them so vague, and they do what my school did. They allow the teachers to have discretion over their students. And so if they decide that another student is violating a dress code, they're not allowed to say anything. They have to go to one of the other teachers who has that student, bring it to their attention, let them make a decision. So you still have the same situation I was in. Now, every time I lifted my arm to write the date or raise my hand in class, I was automatically a distraction, like we mentioned earlier. Then you've got times where a girl is sent home from a dance because her dress made a man uncomfortable, even though it was tailored to fit the dress code. Then you've got that vice principal who looks at a knitted sweater long enough to confirm a student has a tank top underneath, and it's her clothes that he declares inappropriate, not his
Right.
behavior.
It's not that the
Um,
man who was uncomfortable had pants that were too tight.
Yeah, do
Not
you know
bad.
how long you have to stare to see like a millimeter of shoulder skin through a knitted sleeve? Oh, it's so disgusting. But yeah, be, because of this kind of thing, students internalize dress codes and terms like modesty, and teenagers in general, children in general, even adults will do this. They'll internalize modesty as the value or autonomy that a person has. By the time they become an adult, they can justify mild annoyances like a sunburn because they kept their shoulders exposed, um, to things like missed opportunities because instead of wearing a long sleeve button up shirt to an interview, they wore a short sleeved polo, which still is pretty, that's pretty professional for interviews. But there are people who will judge them because they think that that's too casual. So, but then there are even more horrendous acts that can happen because of this internalization. This is where things are going to get rough. Please hold on with me. We're almost done, but this is the most important part. So if you ignore everything else, please at least hold on to this with me. While I was putting together this talk, a "What Were You Wearing" exhibit was on display 2.5 miles from where I was violating dress codes. When survivors of sexual assault open up about their experience to friends, family, and the authorities, they are often confronted with the question, what were you wearing? These exhibits recreate or use the original clothing that survivors were dressed in and display them with messages about the assault. The sexual assault team at YCC in Ogden, which assists people impacted by domestic and sexual violence, served 337 sexual assault survivors in fiscal year 2024. So 337 survivors in 365 days. They brought stories from some of those survivors to light in these exhibits, keeping personal details to just gender and age. And so on at these exhibits, like this is pictures from this particular one. Uh, there's a picture of 5 different outfits that individuals were wearing. The one on the right looks like a full length knitted sweater. The jeans go all the way down to where shoes would touch, probably even further down. It looks like it even has 2 shirts underneath because there's another white neckline that's underneath the dark blue sweater. There's another one where it's a t-shirt, just a simple plain red t-shirt and black slacks. If I had to guess, that's a uniform for some workplace.
I was about to
The
say, I think that one's within dress code, as
Yeah,
described previously.
that all of these are. That's the
Yeah.
crazy part. Well,
Mm.
maybe the one on the left, but
Maybe- Yeah.
that's a little.
The
The one in the
majority of
middle,
these are within dress code. How interesting that that didn't prevent anything from happening.
right? The one in the middle is a Easter Sunday dress. This is a dress that I would see pretty much not even just on Easter Sunday when I went to church, but this is pretty much the same kind of dress I would see any Sunday. And it's full length. It has full length sleeves. The neckline would cover garments. The one that's second to the left is full length sleeves, high neckline. And I think that's on a shorter person, but those are also jeans. I think they might be like skinny jeans, but they're full length. There is no skin exposed. And the one on the left is a hospital gown. Other exhibits that have been done across the country, across the world, they've also included full body and head coverings, like a hijab. So every part of that person was covered, and still something happened to them. These exhibits break hearts, but they also break myths. There was one picture that really hit me. Um, there was one, it was a turtleneck sweater and jeans that they were wearing. Uh, they were assaulted by a man their friend introduced them to. They were 17 years old when it happened. I strongly encourage you all to look up articles about them, about these exhibits, especially if you are a survivor like me. I know I know one reason I was strong enough to stand up for myself at 14 was because I was a survivor of assault. It shouldn't take coming to terms with traumatic events to understand the harm that dress codes can do if they go too far. This goes for school, workplace, and religious settings. It's important to consider what messages we send about clothing. It's absolutely crucial if you were steeped in purity culture to break down where those messages came from so that you can heal and break the cycle of shame. If you have a story of your own, share it, even if it's anonymously. If it's about a dress code, if it's about an assault, there is so much power in sharing it. There's so much healing. Doing this whole talk, putting all of this together, has brought up so much of my past, has helped me break down some things I missed. And I've healed a bit more because of it. So before, just the last thing I want to say, and thank you guys again for putting up with this. I managed to do it in less time than I'd hoped. So this is great, even with breaks in between. I'm so excited. But I'll leave you with one last thing. Never be afraid to raise up both your arms and grin as you wave. Hello.
I love
Thank you.
that so much. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Steph, so much for sharing that. You brought that home so powerfully that was not the turn I was expecting at the end. And I mean, you really stuck the landing there with how important this topic is because it's part of a system of patriarchy, of misogyny, of abuse. And you called it out. And I am now gonna, for reasons that will be unknown to everyone, be waving at people with both hands everywhere I go because I love that so much.
And it'll do one of two things for the people that you're waving at. It'll make them feel really happy that you're that happy to see them, or it'll make them think you've gone kind of crazy and a little concerned. I don't know. It depends on who you're waving
Yeah,
to.
and
I
either one's
interviewed
fine.
I interviewed Forrest Valkai, and he did this, and it was so weird when he did
Yes,
it that I cut the clip and put that in the beginning of the interview, like just so people would like, what is this about?
I love Forrest.
I didn't
He
know
has the best
he
hair.
was giving me the finger essentially. I did not know
Yeah,
that. I just thought he was
turns
just
out he
saying it.
was. He was
Now
like,
I have
"Fuck
to
you, Rob."
reevaluate what I saw.
Are you judging my outfit?
Yeah, that's why when I do this, my fingers are all up, not just the middle. So,
I love that. Oh my goodness.
oh, and
Okay.
this last piece, the picture. I started with a picture of me.
Yeah.
I wanted to end with a picture of me. This is from Saturday. Uh, that's a whole other thing, but this is after I got back from the Pride Festival. After I really celebrated being part of the alphabet community instead of just an ally, because like I said, it's only been about 6 months since I realized what where I fit in that, or that I do fit. And so there was so much joy in this. I wanted to wear this particular shirt And it does have no sleeves. It does have a neckline that shows my favorite mole. And, and again, I'm not smiling as much as a lot of other people would think of smile, but there is a smile there. It's in the eyes, I promise.
Love it. And I
But
bet you
yeah.
waved vigorously with both hands at any of the protesters that you encountered.
Oh, there weren't. I didn't run into any. I was so disappointed.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
unusual. Well,
I
good.
know. But yeah, that was it was a great day. But yeah, I love that picture of me because I have still come so far, and it was a great day.
Well, I am so happy that you were able to bring that full circle, both, kind of in your own journey and for us in the story. This was really powerful. Thank you for sharing this with us. I think this is a really important. I was looking forward to the talk because I think it's an issue that's important to discuss, but like you really brought home how important it is in a lot of ways in terms of how it really does have real impacts for people's lives. So thank you for sharing that. And we have just a few minutes left for a couple of questions. But should we share the poll results before we go?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
please.
let's do that. So I will read the results out and we can discuss them. The first question that we asked was, have you ever been told that you were violating a dress code? And 29% of the people who answered said yes, many times. 46% of people, about half, said it's happened once or twice. 17% said never, and 8% said not sure or not applicable. That's really interesting. And I was thinking as we were asking this question, it would be interesting to see a gender breakdown too, in terms of people's experiences with this, because I'm sure there are plenty of men who have also had this experience, and I would love to hear what that looked like. I suspect that a lot of the women at the meeting tonight have had this experience, though. How does this meet with your expectations, Steph? Does this sound about right to you? Were you surprised by any of these numbers?
Not surprised. In fact, one thought that kept coming to mind is how many people, how many carols, how many guys, how many did not speak up?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How many just thought it was okay that they were wrong, that they screwed up, and yes, they needed to go change their perfectly fine shirt.
Right.
So, yeah, that sounds about right to me.
Yep. Me too. Okay. So the next question we asked was, have you ever been told that you needed to adhere to a dress code that does not match your body proportions or gender expression? And again, 29% said yes many times. 33% said it had happened once or twice. 38% had never had this happen. So that's good.
Never does. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then finally, we asked people what their favorite song from the Book of Mormon was. And it looks like the winner was okay, of the choices we provided, Spooky Mormon Hell Dream came out ahead at 28%. We also had a lot of votes for Turn It Off and a few for Hasa Diga Ibawai. And I apologize again for my butchering of
I think
that
that was pretty
pronunciation.
good.
Okay, I'll take it. But 39% of people selected something else. So we'll have to hear more about that in the hangout.
The
I think that's
22%
because
for
so many haven't seen it.
Turn It Off was very good. It was very good too.
Oh, yeah.
That was about like if you have thoughts you shouldn't be having, and the analogy was just like shutting a light bulb off, like flipping a switch. Just turn it off. Just turn it off.
Turn
Just
it off.
suppress it. It'll go away.
Yep,
That sounds
it's done.
healthy.
It's a great scene. That is one of my favorite scenes. It's not one of my favorite songs, but it's one of my favorite scenes. Like just the whole.
Fair.
It's great.
What's
And
your
for,
favorite song stuff?
I was dying when I saw it once. It was on that bootlegged version that you can find on the internet.
what? I paid for Broadway tickets for nothing?
Okay, you were the one that sent me to the bootleg version, so I don't even want to hear it.
No, I did not.
I
I
get to be
didn't.
jealous of you for
Don't
getting to
don't say
see
we're being
like
recorded.
the
Don't
full
say that
thing.
stuff.
Yeah. What?
I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
La la la. I mean, no, it was the other Rob. It was the other. Sorry, I got my Robs confused.
No, we paid for Broadway tickets to see that play. My favorite was definitely the Hasadiga because it was done so great. So the setup for people who don't know, spoiler, is the Mormon missionaries are in Ugandan village and they're trying to understand their own religion. And the Ugandans are telling them that, yeah, it's miserable here. We have despair and poverty and disease and conflict. And yet we still say to God, Hasa Diga Ibue. And then there's a song, they break out in the song, and that's part of the repeated lyrics. And it looks like they're being joyous, but what they're really saying is, F you, God, for sending us all these problems. Or not listening to our prayers, one of those two things.
Amazing.
And at first the Mormons think it's just praising God, and then they're like shocked when they hear what it really is.
Uh-huh. I was cracking up. The Mormon the creepy hell dream. After I saw that part, I was like stopping to think. I'm like, is that night terror I kept having when I was really little
Could
and
be.
continued into my teenage years? Like, is that what that was? Because yeah, it's creepy. It was terrifying, but
Sounds awful.
it was it's crazy.
Okay, well, we are almost at time, but I think we can squeeze in time for one or two questions.
Okay,
Before we wrap up, we'll make them like speed questions.
deal.
Okay, Rob, do you want to pick one
Well,
first?
I'll pick the very first one that somebody put in the chat, and maybe it's a joke or not. I don't know if you actually have an answer for this stuff. How do the apostles? I'm not sure if I mean I don't mean apostles. Maybe they mean the Mormon prophets.
I know what they mean.
How do the apostles explain that Jesus violates every one of the Mormon dress codes? What do they mean? What do they mean by apostles there?
So the apostles are it's church leadership. You've got the
Ah,
first presidency, which is the prophet of the church, and two guys are his counselors, and then you have 12 other guys who are the apostles.
well,
And
that's pretty presumptuous. Okay,
oh
I thought the
yeah,
apostles
it's
were
all
just the
still a whole
12
bunch
people who
of
were actually
old
supposedly with Jesus.
it,
Wow.
it's still old men. The vast majority are still white dudes. Like,
Okay. All right. So how do they explain that Jesus violates every one of the Mormon dress codes?
I'd have to look. I don't know. It was a style of the time. Maybe God's standards were different that time.
Yeah, the unchanging God changed a lot.
Yeah.
Turns out, yes. Oh, I've had that conversation a lot of times with some of my family members too. Why is it that the rules keep changing, but somehow these are the literal translation of God's will and God is unchanging? Huh, interesting. Okay. Because even like things like the length of, how long is too short for your skirts to be, that's changed dramatically, even like within a couple of generations. So let's not pretend that these are unchanging objective standards. Okay, moving on. Okay, here. Oh, this is an interesting one. Okay, so question specifically for just kind of your reflection, I guess, Steph. If curse words are just sounds that society decided were bad, and you don't believe in the religious morality that originally made them taboo, what's your reason for still avoiding them? And do you think it's really your choice or just a habit left over from your past beliefs?
I've been asked this before,
Oh,
actually.
oh, okay.
Because yeah, okay, my baby brother, my youngest brother, is the one that asks me the most because he swears the most in our family. It sounds great coming out of his mouth when he swears. Um, and he gets excited anytime he thinks he finally heard me say a swear word. And I'm like, no, dude, chill out. But for me, I did kind of consider this again when I was a teenager and figuring out things are a little broken. Um, Words still have meaning and power, You guys saw me come up with a haiku in like 30 seconds. I can't draw to save my life. The artistic side of my family got sucked up of most of that, but the writing skill is something I inherited. And so I know what words sorry, I know what words are better for a situation. And honestly, I can insult somebody far better without swear words. For example, one of my favorite words, asinine. When I learned that word in 10th grade vocabulary, I thought that was the greatest thing to describe someone who was downright moronic. And
Because
it's
it
so much better.
sounds like ass, right?
It sounds like, but also the actual meaning is far more. Yeah, there is so much power in that word, and it's so much more fun to say. And it's also one of those words where if somebody doesn't know what it means, they have to pretend they do.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, there's so much more fun for me.
Otherwise, they'll sound like an ass.
I get it. For so many people, it is very satisfying to finally swear, to finally drop a really good F-bomb. One of my favorite movies is Boondock Saints. I
A lot of f
love
bombs.
it's one of my favorite scenes involving so many F-bombs in a row. It's gorgeous, but it's just not for me to
Is
actually
it
say.
has it more F-bombs than any movie with Samuel Jackson?
I, jeez, I know it's up there. I know
It's up there with snakes on a plane.
Yeah.
uh, oh, it's way past Snakes on a Plane. It's crazy high.
That's great. Well, yeah, and that's a good answer. You know, you can use whatever vocabulary you want to use. So, and
Yeah.
we appreciate your excellent choices of words for this evening's show. This has been great. See what I did there?
Yes.
And, let's wrap up and go to the hangout. I assume you're going to stick around with us for the hangout. Is that a correct assumption?
Oh yeah. In fact, my husband knew that I would definitely be sticking around as long as I could tonight. Um,
Excellent.
he's bringing me some Jack in the Box to celebrate that I got this done. So
Yay.
yes.
Excellent. Okay, good. We'll
I
we'll
can't
give him an honorary wine fairy designation for this evening.
wait.
Get
Deal.
Jack in the Box fairy. I
Jack
love
Fairy.
it. Yes, Jack Fairy. Oh wow, many connotations. Okay, moving on. Thanks everyone
Not a
for
jacked
coming.
fairy. Anyway.
Yes.
Mm.
So this has been fantastic. So happy that Steph was able to join us and that everyone else was able to join us. We'll be here next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Next week we have, I believe, Daniel Sokoloff is going to be giving his presentation. I cannot wait. And that is going to be about, it's one of our kind of religion spotlight, focusing in on a particular religious experience about Judaism. So definitely come for that one. We're going to learn a lot. Some other guests that we have coming up are Adrian Hill, myself, Greg James, Ross Blotcher is back again. What? Can't wait. Okay. And then don't forget to follow us on the social medias if you want more content like this. We are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and of course, YouTube, where you can find previous recordings of RfRx episodes. And it's okay if you don't want to be outed on social media and don't feel comfortable following Recovering from Religion. That's fine. But if you do feel comfortable, like, subscribe, share, repost, all that stuff. It helps other people find us and find our services. So that's one way that you can help other people recover from religion too. And with that, Rob, how else can people help others recover from religion?
Yes, so the volunteers here have learned that healing can come from volunteering with this organization. All the services here are supported by volunteers, and we're always in need of more people. There are all sorts of jobs besides the helplines, which commonly get mentioned on call-in shows, etc. Need other people to do things like this, to other tasks, helping run these shows, working in the background, uploading them, editing, uploading the YouTube to the audio podcast. We need people to find and vet and post the resources that we mentioned earlier for the use of our clients and the agents. We need people to host the support groups you heard about. We need people to moderate the online community and even people to do IT support if that's your skill set and you could lend us a hand. We're always upgrading our software. So apply to volunteer, fill out the form on our main page at recoveringfromreligion.org, and there's a button at the top that says volunteer. And lastly, I will mention, if you want to tell anyone about us, one of the best ways is to send them a 3-minute video, which is on our main page near the bottom. It's named RFR What We Do, and in just 3 minutes, we tell you everything that this organization does, which we took like 15 or 20 minutes to tell you at the beginning, because we're wordy here.
And because Rob sped up the speed of the speech in that video.
Only for one person. You want to say who
Yeah.
that was for?
I bet I know who it was. Well, I do know who it was. Speaking of which, speak of the devil, or the high priest of the flying spaghetti monster. This is normally the point where we have some closing words from Dr. Daryl Ray or our executive director, Gail Jordan, but they are not here this evening. They are both taking care of their families and households due to various events that have taken place, unforeseen. But they have sent their best and their love for all of us and all of you, and will be here with us next week. So with that, what say you that we go to the hangout?
Do it. I know.